My name is Maggie Walker, and I have read The Selection by Kiera Cass, and it is about 327 pages long. So, The Selection takes place in what we would consider America, but it's called something else now, and it's right after a big war. And so what happens is that they reverted back to a monarchy instead of a diplomatic society. So how the royal members of the family choose their future queen is that they have the commoners basically submit an application to become his wife. And in this new society, there's a caste system. One is like the royal family, and it basically goes down to about a 7. And 7s are for basically criminals or no one with any ties whatsoever. 6s are about servants and serfs. 5s are musicians. 4 is agricultural, and 3s and 4s are like politicians and noblemen and rich people, stuff like that. So the story focuses on a girl named America who is in the caste system of 5, so she's a musician for it. And she doesn't like the idea of the selection. She finds it to be very, very stupid, but her mother wants her to be part of it, and so she basically is signed up against her will because of it. And what happens is that she ends up getting selected along with 34 other girls, and they're all taken to the palace, and it's just like this competition to win the prince's heart. But what's also happening during that time is that there's this whole war going on between the other kingdoms, and there are rebels around, and so it's not a very safe time to be part of that. And the 4 main characters of the book, I would say, are America, who's the main character, who the story is central around. And then there's Prince Maxon, who is the guy that all the girls are trying to marry. And he's surprisingly more down to earth than I thought he would be when I first read this book. And then there's Aspen, who was America's first love. And he kind of rears his head around in the middle of the book. And I particularly don't like that character. I think the whole love triangle is like kind of done and over. And I personally don't like love triangles. And I think the book would be much better if he wasn't in it. And I guess the 4th character would be Marley, who is a contestant also in the selection, but she's also becomes America's best friend in it, and she's very nice and she's very spunky. And I guess the main theme in the book is that you don't always have to follow tradition, because America is probably the most anti-selection girl you will meet in this kind of situation, and she doesn't want to marry Prince Maxon, and she doesn't want to follow tradition, but she still has to do it, and so she's basically just doing it while kicking and screaming. And the 2 quotes I chose, one is from the part where America realizes that she has been part of the selection, and the way that they do it is basically they have a drawing, and it's televised and such. So this is what happens. Miss America Singer of Carolina, 5. I wished my head back around, and there was the picture of me just after I found out Aspen was saving up money to marry me. I looked radiant, hopeful, beautiful. I looked like I was in love, and some idiot thought that love was for Prince Maxon. And I just find it to be very funny, because she's so against this whole tradition about it, and she basically does not like the idea of this whole ordeal. And the 2nd quote I chose is right after it's a little bit after she meets Prince Maxon, and he has to spend time with each of the girls. And so they're walking around in the garden. And America was told ahead of time by an official that you have to be a virgin to compete in the selection, but you also can say no to the prince, whatever he asks for it, which includes sexual favors. And so this is what happens on their journey, on their walk through a garden. Ah, he stopped walking and faced me. We're very close to each other, and in spite of the warm summer air, a chill ran down my spine. I think you can tell by now that I am not the type of man to be around the bush. I'll tell you exactly what I want from you. Maxon took a step closer. My breath caught in my throat. I walked into the very situation I feared. No guards, no cameras, no one to stop him from doing whatever he wanted. Knee-jerk reaction. Literally, I need His Majesty in the thigh. Hard. And as soon as I read that book, I just started to like burst out laughing because the rest of the chapter is about like Maxon is like just questioning her. He's like, why did you do that? And she couldn't say. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm a gentleman. I would never do that. But it just starts out their foundation of their friendship that they establish throughout the book. And slowly, I think America starts to realize that she does like him more than a friend. But I'm currently waiting for to obtain the third book because the second book I've read. And it gets more into depth about the rebels and the wars that are coming up. And I would recommend this book to anyone who kind of likes the Hunger Games, because it does have that aspect where it's basically a life and death situation, because if you don't win, you basically go back to your old life and there's this whole war going on and there's a corrupted government and stuff like that. But I also would recommend it to people who kind of like that love story kind of thing, because it does have that aspect to it. But it's a very witty book. I would recommend it to a couple of people, and I do personally like that parallel romance thing, but that's just the kind of books I like. So that's my book report.